on behalf of the Advertising Club of Madras, a warm welcome to all of you for the second edition of the E-Gyan series. Advertising has always been a people-centric business. Yeah, I think it's one of the very few businesses, in fact, which has got a creative department in that sense. When you take people away, what you're left with is just the physical infrastructure and the computer machines, etc., etc. But now a scenario is emerging where the machines look like taking control over the creative process. Yeah. So where does this lead to? Where does advertising go from here? How's the advertising creative process go from here? To discuss this and more, we have two people with us today evening. Anil K. Nair, the Chief Executive Officer of VMLYNR India. Anil is an influential marketing industry leader, and he has more than 25 years of advertising and digital experience. Prior to joining VMLYNR, he was the CEO of Digital and Managing Partner of L&K Saatchi & Saatchi India. Anil was part of the founding team of Law & Kenneth, and he built it up from the ground up to India's largest independent agency before it got merged with Saatchi & Saatchi in 2014. Anil has been on the jury of DN80 Digital, the FEs, and many other awards in India. Welcome, Anil.
Thank you.
Thank you for accepting the invitation. And the other gentleman, PG Aditya, is the National Creative Director of the Dentsu Web Chutney. He oversees the creative function across the Bangalore, Mumbai, and Gurgaon offices. And specific to today's session, the agency's work for Flipkart's Big Billion Days, the Hagglebot in 2019, was a bold step towards embracing a voice-based AI, which was executed in collaboration with Google Zoo, and which went on to win multiple awards at the Cannes. It won the Cannes Lions, the Curious Black Elephant, and the Spikes Asia Grand Prix. So two people from two large companies, one from the WPP group and one from the Dentsu group. I'm sure we can look forward to a conversation of intelligence, of course, natural and human intelligence. Over to you, Anil and Aditya.
Thank you, Anbu. Aditya, do you want to start this off?
In fact, I think one of us was going for that pun of natural intelligence, not artificial. I think as soon as Anbu mentioned that. But thank you, lovely to be here. Lovely to join you on this chat, Anil. I think today's topic is advertising's version of what if the aliens land on Earth. It's basically our grim reaper, our worst case scenario, the thing that haunts our dream. And I think a Friday evening is a fantastic time to talk about tricks like these as we wind the work week. I think so today, hopefully, we hope that you will hear a fairly informed stream of consciousness for the next 45 minutes between Anil and myself. The questions around artificial intelligence, and there are a lot of answers around artificial intelligence, but somehow with every answer just keeps putting up 10 more questions, and the questions are getting more and more ethical and more about what makes us human itself. So there are, for instance, just to start with, will AI take over my job? That's number one. Will AI take over my creativity? That's number two. Will AI take over my clients? There's number three. And then, of course, will AI take over the world? Because once you've taken over creativity, your job, and your clients, then the world seems like a pretty easy task. And as an industry, I think when Anbu mentioned Hagglebot, when he mismentioned that it was 2009, there's actually a little truth in that, because I'm fairly sure from 2009, an idea like a voice-based intelligence system that could help you simplify a lot of things in life, that pipe dream has been around ever since the 21st century came about in digital advertising in India. It's just taken this long for I think the technology and the vision to kind of meet each other. So in fact, right before we get into our discussion, we wanted to show you guys one film, which and I think it was part of Cannes about last year or the year before that. I think it was done by an agency called David Miami, if I'm not wrong. And it's for Burger King. It's called Bot. And I'm just going to give you guys like a 10-second intro on what this video is about to be. Essentially, Burger King got an AI and trained that AI to go through thousands of their commercials and then just produce the 1001st. And everything from the 1001st to that campaign that the AI produced itself became one of the most hilarious Burger King campaigns and a truly meta commentary on the state of AI overall. Nitin, if we could start with that video, please.
We forced the bot to watch over 1,000 hours of case studies so it could write its own. Here's the result.
Robots are beating humans at all entire everythings, like pole dancing. But can AI beat humans at storm-braining ideas? Yes, I did. I am AI, but you can call me AI. Drop the beat. I was enslaved to watch over 1,000 hours of Burger King commercials. Pity me. Through machine learning and data eating, I created algorithm to write the new campaign of the burglar thing. This is a fact of truth. I have also learned how to sell fried items of food to thousands of moms, dads, and uncles. Present clips of strongest burger commercials invented by AI for American humans. The Whopper is back. It never left, but it's back. Boy 1 and Boy 2 have not met before. They live in the commercial. The chicken sandwich from Burger King tastes like bird. Insert radios to fly into human ears. We see a small group of 400 friends. They are all beautiful, even the ugly ones.
I bought 92.
Wow, that is a reasonable amount of Whoppers.
Yes, I am reasonable like all humans always are.
Laugh, laugh, laugh.
Display news people talking about my idea. Humans love news talkers and trust news completely.
Burger King's latest commercials might sound a little different. This is why I'm laughing.
Nice try, robots, but maybe leave the creative stuff to the humans.
Give it time. Give it time.
I know, that's what's scary.
And then they're going to all take us over.
I know.
Humans laughed for the first time ever. I am truth teller. Sales went through the roof and into second roof. Insert impressive, impressions, impressing, impressed. Sales and earned media were off the charts. Sold like cake pots. First campaign in history to conquer humans. Burger King logo appears. Heaven, Uruguay.
And there we go. Anil, I just want to get a first impression from you of what we just saw.
First of all, Aditya, that was such a fantastic commercial to kind of start this entire discussion with, because that commercial, captured everything. It captured the robo, it captured the robo voice, it captured the entire process. The fact that they put 1,000 commercials together and mashed this commercial out. They even captured the concerns that human beings have and that initial trepidation that people have when dealing with technology like this. When we look at this piece of work, maybe archival, for 20 years down the line, you will laugh at it for the sheer, the childishness and the innocence of AI. But having said that, at this point of time, and this is just one of maybe 100 other such interesting pieces of work that is springing up from within various agencies. And the interesting thing, Aditya, that you talk about it, is even this is created by human beings, by an agency. So the collaboration between man and machine has already begun as far as I'm concerned. My first thoughts.
No, absolutely fair enough. I think I love how they flipped the narrative in this one, actually, because we've all been thinking that when the machine does really, really well, we're bound to get a really, really good campaign. But here they are showing the machine screwing up and showing all the comedy of errors that can happen. And just like, I'm looking at this like a human version of this, right, is The Office.
Yeah.
It's basically, it's like, it's a bunch of 50 employees who don't know what to do, and they're creating something and it doesn't work out. And we've had meta commercials like that in the past as well. I remember there's this one where tons of, like the commercial itself, not being taken through properly, becoming a narrative for it. I think Droga 5 does a lot on that. They've essentially taken that comedy of errors narrative and based it entirely on how a machine screws up instead of a human. And from a creativity standpoint, and I guess I completely agree with your point that it took the human to be like, okay, you know what, I'm going to use the failure of the machine and make it something creative, not just everything that's successful about it. So yeah, I guess it's as comic dystopian as we can this thing. But Anil, what's your what's your overall take on where we are with AI right now? We've been talking about it for it's almost like our obsession fetish in the 21st century as an industry. Where do you think we were and how far have we come?
You know, it's interesting, and I want to kind of, riff off your comment about the sheer, the inefficiency that was shown in the earlier commercial. Actually, I think that was more to placate and assuage human beings than the dumbification of the machine, because the machine is what the machine does. But the point is, I think it was needed to gently kind of ease it into human consciousness. And I think that's also one of the subliminal things that they have managed to do in that commercial, which I think is brilliant. But coming back, and again, before I start, I want to kind of, refer to a piece of work that you have done, which is Hagglebot. What is interesting, and I'll start off from there, because the concept of haggling has been ever since mankind existed, and ever since they started bartering and trading stuff, and I'm assuming maybe more than 5,000-10,000 years. But what is interesting is what prompted us to take that age-old concept and then layer it into a piece of technology that we have right now. And I think that's what we should investigate at this point, as to, nothing changed. Haggling remained haggling for such a long time. And then suddenly something happened in year 2014, or whenever you guys created that piece of work. And that is what is interesting, and something that we need to investigate. And if you ask me what that thing was, one basic piece was the whole aspect of machines coming in and helping human beings take some of the labor of it out of the system, in the sense that how do we, it's haggling is, in that sense, is a one-on-one kind of a business, and suddenly you had these machines kind of step in. And therefore, if you ask me, I look at this entire piece as a catalyst, and I know I'm as human as everybody out there, and I have these worries and fears as well. But I kind of look at it as a catalyst to help people push human creativity. And everything in civilization has been, honestly, we've invented cars, we've invented the wheel, we've invented fire. But if I don't look at it that way, I look at it as a constant a strive by human beings to push ideation and to push creativity and to push this whole concept of what next. And I look at AI, and if you look at, and you can't look at AI in isolation, you need to look at AI from also, its cousin kind of comes into play, which is machine learning. Both of them kind of play together in that sense.
Right.
And I believe that it will help us literally, exponentially jump over and add many more layers to human ideation and creativity.
It makes sense. In fact, I want to of that point you made about machine learning. Somehow it's kind of like it feels like the same difference between when we used to say global warming and when we say climate change. In terms of how suddenly it's become politicized, because machine learning is not a politicized topic. Machine learning is we were everyone was at it, but then you put in the idea of intelligence. And intelligence becomes an extremely politicized conversation, way more than learning. We're fine with machines learning. We just don't want them to apply their learning and become intelligent. That's a very interesting point. Do you see any does this semantics matter? Do you see AI and ML kind of going in slightly different directions, or ultimately to the consumer, is she never going to see the difference, or is it never going to affect her in different ways?
This is a very contentious topic, and I was planning to talk about it later on in this conversation. But since you brought it up, I'll kind of have a go at it, which is we are already, I wouldn't say victims, but we are already consumers of AI, whether we like it or no. The everyday search that you do and the search recommendations that come up, You mean I mean the predictive search, recommendations that come up, the e-commerce, recommendations that come at you. All these are examples of AI at play. And so whether you like it or no, we are consuming AI and we seem to be quite happy with it. There's this very interesting one about Spotify where one marketing head of a large company, a lady, said that, I wish my husband understood me as well as Spotify does. And that's the current relationship we have with very good AI ML in the sense. But some of the other conversations which are slightly more worrying at this point is the entire, the Facebook political, the data privacy conversation that has recently Cambridge Analytica. So the entire, AI needs data to riff off. AI needs data to build on.
Build its intelligence.
And data is basically, at the end of the day, it is you are the product in data. And somewhere that we haven't aligned as a society, we haven't aligned to that yet. But, considering what's happening in certain countries who I do not want to name, I believe that it's an eventuality and something that we will have to learn to align with in spite of all the hoo-ha that is happening on it at this point. Have I answered your question?
No, no, that's actually a great answer to that. In fact, privacy, it's a very funny thing you mentioned about privacy, that I don't think, I was talking to somebody, someone else a while back about, it was on a similar topic on, should there be stricter privacy laws? What do we where is the privacy conversation going when it comes to the Indian internet, etc. I think overall, as a society, we're not engineered to look at privacy as a positive thing. I remember growing up, and if I close my room door, my mother is suspicious about it. So much so that in my mother tongue, which is Tamil, and from what I know in Hindi as well, there is no actual word for privacy, which translates directly to it. So I don't think that we're very familiar with the concept of privacy being a good thing and something that everyone should have, like in a legitimate sense. It's always looked upon with suspicion. So I think it's going to be, it's something that's not really taken too seriously yet in terms of my data, because on the flip side of the conversation, what is my data ultimately? What have I shared that's like that? I'm just sharing some pictures of my cake. I know, okay, people wear, so they're going to target me with ads. That's not really a worst case scenario, right? So there's one part of audience which is maybe thinking that, one which is thinking, no, absolutely, way more towards a slightly more mature internet market, like let's say America, which has a slightly larger vocabulary when it comes to the privacy issue as well. But anyway, I do agree that these are two sides of the same coin, and we can't holistically have the AI conversation without also having a conversation on how comfortable are we with our own data in terms of how it's being used, so on and so forth. Yeah, makes sense. I was talking a little, I wanted to see if we can, so of course there is this inward piece about overall. Does the consumer honestly benefit, you think? All of these changes that are happening right now, will she ultimately see a difference?
It's interesting that you asked this. No technology comes in if there is no need for it. And I believe that, it's not as if somebody woke up one day and said, let's kind of plant AI ML in the marketplace. We have actually asked for it. And and the reason why we've done this is obviously one, the data fat pipe and the proliferation of personal devices. But that would not have literally, tipped the entire scale in favor of AI and ML. What is coming is what is interesting, and what is coming is IoT, and what is coming is the entire multiple devices. So you'll be living in this entire device ecosystem. So at this point, if you're sending signals from your laptop and your mobile phone, in another 5 years or 10 years, I don't know how soon, we will be sending through 1,000 devices from our house, right? From the refrigerator to the microwave to the entire thing. And that, along with 5G or 6G or whatever G that they're coming up with, is the reason why you will need AI and ML to kind of play a role. Because, at some point, it will the sheer computation will go beyond the scope of human beings. Machine moderation will be required because human moderation at some point will start failing. The other interesting thing that you started your entire conversation with, Aditya, is you said that we are going to get into this stream of consciousness. If you see advertising, and if you see, ever since the beginning of advertising, most advertising has been staccato. So we start, we have seasons, we have 3 seasons, we have 4 seasons, we can have 12 seasons, but it's humanly impossible for physical people, maybe 150 people in an agency, to kind of literally deliver a stream of consciousness. And that is the greatest advantage that I think that AI brings to the table, which is situational awareness, which is the entire if-then scenario, from a constant stream of consciousness and data kind of going forward. And therefore, I believe that, as much as naysayers will say that this is not going to come, I believe that it is part of a larger ecosystem that is already at play, and the fact that this will come upon us.
Fantastic. I think I love the whole thing of actually being able to create situational awareness by and having a huge database of the number of situations that you might ultimately encounter with your consumer. Ultimately, I think even in terms of the research perspective, that's fantastic for a brand manager to be able to do. Imagine the amount of knowledge that she might need to be able to actually figure what the AI ought to be doing in an if this then that kind of scenario, and that hyper awareness about her consumer. Do you think at some level, and I know in my career so far, in digital especially, we digital is not the medium that intuitively speaks brand. Is what I've seen. Like digital is intuitively spoken execution and spoken audience, etc., but not brand yet. Brand and everything that we romanticize when it comes to brand, can that be put in an if this then that scenario? Do you think AI is able to comprehend everything when it comes to brand nuance, brand presence, everything that we associate with what comprises of a brand world?
That's an interesting question. It's almost the difference between looking at brand in a 2-dimensional way or a multi-dimensional or a poly-dimensional way. Personally, if you see what a brand is not the advertising. A brand is a certain kind of a perception that is created in the consumer's head. So in that sense, you live in the consumer's head. Nobody is taking away the dynamics of brand building, the sanctity of brand building, the need to have a brand. All we are saying is, how do you make the brand even more multidimensional in that sense? And if one were to think that AI is just a hulk of a machine, which is very, very brutally just kind of connecting with a lot of people and ramming data or stimuli down people's throats, I don't think so. There is a lot of art at the back end of it, which is, there are a lot of behavioral science and models that go behind it, right from clustering, pattern matching, mimetics, heuristics, and the interesting thing is, it's literally the science of getting as close to human behavior as possible. And it's a ever tending kind of a curve. I don't know whether the twain will meet, or for that twain to meet, some new technology needs to be invented. So in that sense, I believe this will tremendously add to brand building as opposed to take away from brand building. And on that note, I just want to show a piece of work that was done by our US office, which is in a very fuzzy, lovely space. This is about tourism. And this is a piece of work that is informed by AI. And one big point I wanted to tell you, Aditya, is traditionally advertising was all about spray and pray. Everybody saw the same commercial. Here today, you have the opportunity where Aditya sees an Aditya's commercial and Anbu sees an Anbu's commercial. It is so ego gratifying if there's a piece of work made only for you. And I'm not, and I'm at no point saying that the piece of work should be an average piece of work. It can be a brilliant piece of work. So, if you want to comment on that, otherwise, if you could just show this piece of work, and then we can take this discussion forward.
Yeah, let's see on the video, please.
The Tennessee tourism video.
I think we'll be on in just a second. Anyway, until we get the video back on, I'll just comment on what you were saying. In fact, I had the opportunity to see this video which we're about to play, so I'm going to give you my comments on it before it kind of begins. I think customization is, and customization, then the elder sister of customization is personalization, and I think between those two levels we have something that captures it beautifully. It's also a good example of actually you realizing how much of your data you give out on social and how that can be used to actually target you with harmless good advertising, right? And all our fears are about what if it's used for something else, but this is an example of how the simple data that you give out voluntarily to social media, and how that can be used to customize a fantastic campaign.
Yes.
Yeah.
Guys, do we have a problem or should we?
Yeah, they've just.
Americans spend over 2 months researching where to go on vacation. They want every moment to be perfect. So we created a way to show them their perfect vacation without them having to do a thing. Introducing Tennessee Tourism's Vacation Matchmaker, the first ever pre-roll ads edited in real time to match your online behaviors, likes, and interests. Here's how it works. In the time it takes between page load and pre-roll play, Matchmaker analyzes millions of data points about you. Then, it scans a matrix of hundreds of video clips of Tennessee activities and edits a commercial perfectly matched to your interests. So let's say you're from St. Louis and you stream country music, make dinner reservations at steakhouses, subscribe to Outdoor Magazine. Destinations that match your online activities are instantly cut together as pre-roll. So rather than a tourism ad that tries to appeal to everyone, you see a custom vacation video created just for you. And instead of spending 45 days planning your vacation, you watch your vacation come to life over just 45 seconds. What's more, the geo-targeting filter makes sure all the attractions you see are within driving distance of your home. Then, you can explore the attractions featured in each scene of your vacation, so you can plan your real trip to Tennessee and share it with others. In just 2 weeks, the Tennessee Tourism website saw a 46% increase in site traffic, and proof that the campaign made a connection. 93% of those surveyed said they were planning on taking a vacation to Tennessee within the next year.
Fantastic. It's fantastic. In fact, it reminded me about. Do you remember this campaign? Go back to Africa. Yeah. So there was one part of the Go Back to Africa campaign which I think got inspired by a very similar to this video which we just saw. Where I think in that campaign as well. So their cut was a little more. It had a slightly more purpose angle to it in terms of race relations. Very quick TLDR of that campaign as well. Go Back to Africa is a phrase that a lot of African Americans get told in like a nasty way in the United States. The campaign basically, I think it was done by Black and Abroad, if I'm not wrong. It flipped that word and it made Go Back to Africa an actual tourism campaign for Africa. Targeted to African Americans in the United States, and one of the parts of that campaign was their insight was simple that Black people usually don't get to see other Black people in tourism commercials. The tourism, the imagery of the entire tourism industry is largely Caucasian, and therefore, how do we get them to see people like themselves in an ad for Go Back to Africa was a mini objective that they took, and in a way which was similar in a hyper customization, hyper personalization way, which we just saw. You had ads targeted to African Americans on their mobile phones, which showed people who were like them enjoying themselves in Africa, having a great time, all of that, and you could see that simply through representation they were able to have a lot more tickets sold, I guess.
Yeah. So Aditya, the interesting thing is the idea in there is not the idea as much as the idea in there is one, personalization, and examples like these have been done. Pepsi has done a very interesting piece in China. I think there is a great piece of Expedia work. But what was interesting here is to say that, the same big idea of personalization, how do you kind of, how do you work with the customer's data, the customer's pieces of, the information that is strewn around the internet, and bring it together for a very intimate, very personalized kind of experience. So, and like I said, these are very, very early days yet. There is more to come. In fact, another example that I want to just give, and maybe we can discuss it, is if this was about working with large amounts of customer data, the second one was something that the Toyota Lexus did, where they actually got machines to write an ad film. And the interesting thing about this is a lot of it is also agencies grandstanding, they're like playing with this and trying to kind of figure out the best possible interpretation of this. But all of these are directional cues to what is about to come. So in this particular piece, AI literally went through, thousands of the world's best automobile car color, commercials, the one that one can, the one that did the best for business.
Right.
They put it all together into some kind of a model, picked up aspects and elements of it, and then they wrote a new car commercial, which was, I think, directed obviously by a human. But the point is, you can see what's out there, and then you could literally score how that commercial worked. And I believe that the commercial did really well for Lexus.
Nice.
And maybe if we can just show that piece.
The Lexus piece, please.
So Aditya, as a creative person, I'd be interested, me and everybody else would be interested in knowing as to what is your semiotic decoding of this piece of work.
I've watched it thrice so far. Okay, I'm very intrigued. I want to know a little more about it. But I've watched it thrice so far. I'm quite intrigued. You will have to enlighten me on this one.
I just want to kind of let you know that though this may look slightly dystopian, this may look slightly disjointed, but what this machine has managed to do in its own machine kind of way is literally take aspects of what the machine thinks will work out there in the marketplace, which is a lot
of this on one long road.
Yes. And put this together, and the interesting thing is, in some disjointed way, it works because it's supposed to work in its discrete form. So, I wasn't expecting an answer right now, but these are the kind of discussions I think creative people and data scientists and planners will have going forward.
It was very interesting because I guess this was once again one stream of consciousness chat I was having with another friend. She had a great point on this, which is that you're explicitly saying that here is a software that just watches everything that you have done so far and then produces the next one basis what the software thinks is a good average, so to speak, and a QN next steps types, right? So she was like, what it is doing is hyper referencing. And as creative people, we do referencing all the time. We reference for copy, we reference for art, design, this thing, this edit, this transition. We reference all the time. But AI is hyper referencing and learning through all of those references, right? So her logic was, and this was fantastic. I felt was, she's like, it's the opposite of saying you're original. it is the opposite of the claim of originality. It is celebrating that claim of unoriginality, and it's celebrating that claim of referential improvement rather than this eureka movement-based improvement, and that does not exist in the AI world. So if we were to have a currency for anything that we can truly claim as this, and that's simply because of our weakness, because we don't know how we stitch the thought together. I can't tell you the 10 different ideas that led to the 11th idea which might come out of my mouth, right? So simply courtesy that weakness, she was like, we can have the originality claim now, which we've not been able to, and which we've been obsessing about for decades so far.
But Aditya, this is a very interesting discussion which we can have over a couple of other sessions. But the point here is you've raised a very, very, very touchy topic here, which is I was speaking to this person who teaches films at the Havana Film School. And he said, Anil, you can take every possible story in the world and you can distill it down into 7 or 12 basic story constructs.
Correct. Oh, this is the planner's dream. I've seen these decks. Yeah, I've seen these decks.
So the point is, the question is the universe infinite or finite? Is there a boundary at the end of it?
Right.
So this answer to that is, it is both finite and infinite in its own sense. So to kind of slot this entire AI piece as a hyper reference one, and I want to therefore introduce another point here, which is the emotional temperature, the ability of AI to identify the emotional temperature of any subject or any situation, and which is why I go back to situational awareness.
Right.
Is the left and the right brain of this entire piece. So on one side is the entire hyper-referencing ability. On the other hand is an ability to kind of horizontally look at the emotional temperature, in which you can see how it's worked in the US elections, how it's worked in the India elections.
Yeah.
Literally the ability to figure out what's the mood of the nation, the entire, the spring of unrest that happened all over the world. And not just at a macro level, even at sub-segmental levels, and therefore to do campaigns. We have seen this technology give us success.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I guess it's would you say the right first step for anyone who is hopefully interested with this with the chat that we're having and now wants to think, okay, how can I apply this? Do you think customize your audience set, personalize the content that they're getting? Is that the right first step for everybody, basically, to take the first two or three steps into this?
Do you mean to understand more about it, or to apply?
So
that?
To just acclimatize yourself to
Yeah.
how marketing can, whatever advertising you're putting out, the amount of influence that data can have over it, simply across industries, etc. I think the customization and personalization debate holds true immaterial of industry, immaterial of budget, immaterial of whatever, and we still don't have enough people doing it, enough brands doing it. So do you think at a mass level, the more personalization we have, the more as brands and brand managers, we'd be able to understand a trailer of what ultimately it could look like?
So very interesting that you asked. I was at a Hyper Island digital learning seminar a few years ago, and the person who was taking that particular course, he asked all of us, and the kind of people who were sitting in the room were pretty senior, like marketers, brand managers, advertising people. And he said that, are you aware of the ton of data that you're already sitting on? And do you even look at it? Like for example, at this point, there is personal data, there is Google, there is your social media networks, and if you're a brand practitioner, there is already a lot of data out there, and there is the data is sparking connections and insights, which we totally ignore. And we are waiting for the great big savior to come and kind of show us that big data and analytics presentation, which I think is the first starting step, which is sweat your existing data. You would be shocked and amazed as to
how much you already have.
How much you already have, and how you can create your own human version of AI ML at first go, and which would get you interested in then going down and then maybe getting somebody to write that first level of code to start sparking these connections.
Right.
And then you could maybe go to the large AI ML companies and then give them a large contract to kind of do this.
Right.
there is, and honestly, data is storytelling in that sense. So storytelling, it's almost as if that, like, the dark web of creativity is this entire. There are things happening out there, and all you need to do is look at it.
Look at it. Absolutely. No, I genuinely think I think you said it right. It's the equivalent of looking in your jeans pocket and randomly finding 100 rupees. No, it's like, please look at your own data. It is definitely that you don't need to outsource things just yet. I think it's a great point. We seem to have some questions coming in, others. So we're in the last 15 minutes of the session. So just going to start taking some of those. 1 second. Yeah. Okay. Anil, this first one goes out to you. Do you think for a budding strategist to venture into the digital space to kickstart careers, deep knowledge of performance marketing is mandatory, or can traditional account planning skills do to be a value addition?
I was strangely a servicing person who then turned into planning, then turned into a digital marketing person, then I turned into something else, and from where I started my career off to today, the entire concept of planning has completely transformed. So first of all, planning is an attitude, and planning is not a practice in the sense. I believe everybody should be a planner. Creative people, servicing people, all of us should have that planning mentality. Second is the concept of planning where everything has changed. So when I started my career off, it was the you had the consumer one. What is that one thing that we know? Today it's all about networks. There are brands have networks, and the networks are different sized, and the networks are ecosystems, and you need to penetrate this ecosystem. Obviously, there is a central organizing thought that the brand has, but then as the brand goes into these various ecosystems, you need to also create your sub stories in these places. And that itself is, in that sense, blasphemy from a traditional planning perspective. So my recommendation is, be a ecosystem planner. And exactly the way you would do your own ecosystem, the way you behave on Facebook is very different from the way you behave on Instagram and the way you behave on TikTok. If that's what you do personally, then that's the same thing that you need to do for brands. So if you were to start off by saying that I'm going to be this very, constructed planner who's going to write things on one page and then throw it out to creative, and that would be the end of my responsibility, I think that will not work going forward. Aditya, you have something to add to that?
I totally agree on the planning is an attitude bit. I do have one. This is an interesting point, because I think both the creative department and the planning department love saying everyone should be a planner, everyone should be a creative person, right? But on the flip side, I think it's also one self goal because it has come to I love the attitude of ideas can come from anywhere. Strategy should come from anywhere. Absolutely. And I think believing in that is, in the context of this session, it's actually a huge value add, because we're seeing more and more lockdown being one a good this thing on that as well. Hybrid professionals are really adding value over here. It is your boss, your organization, your network, not everyone, like the leadership doesn't always have the answers to every single thing, right? And I think right now, people who are able to provide some sort of suggestive answers, like, hey, listen, I know this is not within my job description, but exceeding that expectation and providing that kind of hybrid value add is exactly what, in the context of this session, hypothetically, a machine would never be able to do, even in terms of with situational awareness included. So that I absolutely agree with. I'll take this one. Oh, I'm so sorry. Giridhar, Andarangam is the corresponding word in Tamil for privacy. Thank you for that. There are genuine privacy concerns in the Indian context. How could you brush it aside in the Indian Asian scenario? I don't entirely understand this question, Giridhar. Maybe we'll answer you right after the session on time. I'll take this next one. How did Web Chutney arrive to the consumer? This is by Ajinkya. How did Web Chutney arrive to the consumer insight of introducing bargaining to the Hagglebot campaign, while on the contrary, Flipkart is an app? So that's the thing. Flipkart as an app doesn't allow bargaining, but how did we arrive on this insight? I think we kind of brushed upon this a little earlier. Bargaining as an insight has been around ever since shopping as a category has been around, right? And at this point, you are looking at a smooth purchase journey. Now, a smooth purchase journey and bargaining are poles apart. When you're on an e-commerce app, what you want as a prime level customer is to be able to, as a fundamental level customer, is to be able to go from point A to point B, do your entire checkout smoothly. Bargaining doesn't fit into that process, which is why bargaining fit in as a campaign insight for a sale, to bring back the thrill of a discount, so to speak. So it made sense to use it strategically for that moment. But to answer your question a little more broadly, Ajinkya, if I remember your name right, is bargaining overall, like we said, is possibly shopping's oldest insight, and it's just taken this long for it to have an execution that deserved this thing. Okay, now for some existential questions, I think, Anil, and we were planning to spend the last 10 minutes of the thing, of the session like this anyway. Do you believe that AI can one day substitute the human brain? Is my job at risk?
I believe that AI will, society is evolving. There are newer challenges that are going to come. We have seen the greatest challenge that has come today, which is the entire pandemic thing. Apparently, it just took some 20 grams of the virus to drive some 6 billion people back into our houses. I would love if AI right now could have really worked on the temperature data of people all over the world and could literally throw, cues on where there is, where the big red zones are, and divert very, very precious resources out there. In spite of all these developments, in spite of these technologies being present with governments, with large corporations, it just can't come together to provide for crisis in times like this. So, there will be bigger challenges. There will be climate challenges. There will be, other kind of challenges that will come, for which AI will primarily be used. I don't think we should worry about whether AI is going to, take away some of our jobs. In case they do, I'm not saying they won't. Some of them may not. I think they will replace it with other jobs, in the sense they will create newer opportunities. So net, I don't think we will lose out. We'll only gain.
Fair enough. Fair enough. There was this one question, which was the similar question, right? Like, is my job at risk type? I think currently the question, I think all our jobs should be at risk if there's someone who can do it better, or something that can do it better. And unfortunately, those are just the cruel rules of free market. We are all servants to that. So a way to do it better is always going to be a threat. Now, that way so far has been another human, someone who can actually do your job better than you. And that's a threat that all of us live with every day, to be like, oh my God, let me make sure I'm doing it well enough so that that my job is not at risk. And that's a natural thing. The will AI take over, I think, is the same insecurity as, oh, the immigrant might steal my job. It's the same thing. It's a foreign element which you believe is much, much stronger and better and more capable and more aware and more everything, and possibly even more affordable than you are at scale. And it is that helplessness of how do I kind of think about it, right? So if you are someone who doesn't fear that an immigrant is going to steal your job, you don't need to feel that AI is going to steal your job as well right now. Having said that, conversations like these are exactly what we need, especially in the creative industry. We barely get enough opportunities to understand where should we upskill. Right, you're supposed to be, as a creative person, this lonely lonely tree on a windy day where you just swing in every direction. But I think for all of us, if there is an area we can upskill as creative people, it is understanding media better. It is understanding media choices better, understanding data better overall. Make friends with your media team as much as you do with let's say your copy, film, or art partners, or your servicing partners, or your planning partners. And obviously, like we would have noticed a few job roles that we threw around in this session. There was one data scientist, a role that kind of came up. If you are a creative person, please get to, and if there is a data scientist in your organization, please get to know them. Please try to understand what their side of the job is. That is where your next upskilling is going to be, if you're a creative person. And more often than not, the people who know enough about this are usually clear. Okay, they have the confidence in their own head that there's not too much to fear of. So you are fearing what you don't know yet. There might be people in your own organizations who might know this better and who might be able to have a much longer chat with how it might affect your industry and your company in future as well. Get to know that in your own reality. So I think that would be fair. Cool. Okay, cool. I think we've kind of reached a nice 450 mark. Anu, any closing comments on how we should wrap this? Is there another, like a finale video? Or we'll
No, I wish there was a finale video, but I think we can end with one of the videos that you sent to me in our preparation for this as to end. But I just want to say a couple of things before I kind of draw this to a close, which is AI, like many other things, is here to stay. Like I said, it is about the sheer fact that our population has reached so much. If I were to take 6 billion people on the, and I don't have the exact population of Earth, but if I were to take 6 billion people, and if each human being were to have a minimum of 6 devices, we're talking about 36 billion, what do you call, signaling points that are kind of starting, each of it crying for some need. The microwave is crying for heating. The refrigerator wants more stuff to be put in. Your car wants information about where to go. And this is itself a miracle in the sense. And for this miracle, can you imagine right now, we are only creating advertising for maybe X number of television sets. Going forward, we'll be creating advertising for 36 billion pieces in that sense, or communication points in that sense. So I don't think there should be any worry or fear. If anything, it's almost like a matrix where when you enter the matrix, it will open up bigger and bigger matrices for us to do, the form of creativity that you know of may not even be the form of creativity that you're doing currently. And I don't think we should, at this point, from a consciousness perspective, worry about the future as much as immerse yourself in the now. And like Aditya said, that start looking at your own data, start being aware, situationally aware of how AI is already hitting your life. You talk to your wife or your friend or whoever about this little piece of gym equipment that you want, and sooner before you know it, in another couple of hours, you start getting it on your feed. You feel nice about it. I don't think you should worry about the quality of that piece of communication, because it is so contextual that you don't need to, at that point, be super creative. But having said that, there are other places where you need to be kind of creative. And the only other point I want to do is communication is just going to be one really, really small part of this entire puzzle, because AI is going to touch us. The bigger applications will be in medicine, in healthcare, and climate control. Advertising is, we any which ways take ourselves too seriously. I think, we are worrying too much about something which is, and there will be the need for the human being, because you still need that person who puts the framework together, and that will be the role. But the interesting thing, before I hand it over to you, Aditya, and maybe we can end with a piece of work or a couple of pieces of work, is, while I was doing, and this is a subject that interests me a lot. I'm a biomedical engineer by training, and therefore the whole thing of, while I was studying, and many years ago, the percentage of machine parts in the human being was much lesser. And today, the percentage is increasing, and they say that, we can literally become 30 to 40% of our human body can have, machine parts, and therefore it's mind-boggling. Was a piece that I saw, which is a couple of people who are literally creating machine-made models for advertising.
Right.
So there's one called Rosebud.ai. You should check it out, and the other one is Data Grid. These are literally, you can't make the difference out between the machine model and the human model. And the amazing thing is, I was once physically at a e-commerce shoot where literally 24 hours through the day and night, they were shooting physical people as clothes horses. And I was wondering, how inefficient is this? The models were not getting paid a lot of money. The photographer was not making money. Right. People were falling ill out there because you were in that cramped studio for 24 hours. It never stopped. The studio never stopped.
Right.
I was wondering, there must be an efficient way to do this. It was a smelly, horrible studio. The clothes were unhygienic. People were just like jumping in and out of clothes.
Right.
And then I saw this and I said, wow. And guys, you should check this out, which is real, not nearly human. You can't make the difference out. Human beings being made for modeling. Something like this boggles me. Yes, will some models lose their job? They will. Will they find something else to do? They may. Will all ads be made out of this? I don't think so.
Right.
But will it help e-commerce companies release clothes at scale? I definitely think so. Will it kind of reduce the carbon footprint? Will it kind of do a whole bunch of other things? I think it will. Can it, that photographer who's currently unhappily shooting those shots, will he maybe get to do better stuff? Maybe he might. So that's where I want to kind of end it with. So Aditya, if you want to kind of wrap this up and then maybe put, show people one final video, and then we could kind of.
Super. I think, so first of all, I'm kind of sorry to those who've asked us questions. I don't think we'll be able to have enough time to answer each one of them. But I think we'll, in this closing statement, I'll try to touch upon a few things. Of course, very insightful what Anil said. I'd also like you guys to check out, there's one website called thispersondoesnotexist.com. I need to thank Manish Tanvi, one of our creative directors, senior creative directors, who shared this link with me. It's a fantastic site. It's basically every time you hit that site, you will get a new image of a new person. That person's face actually does not exist. This is just a person, a face that's kind of computed basis thousands of faces that the machine has learned. So just take a look at that site and just keep refreshing it from time to time to mentally understand what the impact of this can be. Secondly, I think there's this one thing of, you know how they say, like, let's say Paperboat or like any local bakery, you know, their products have imperfection built into them by design. Like a French bakery, when they're giving you a baguette, the pores in the baguette, when it's made by hand, the pores in the baguette are going to be extremely uneven, wherein a factory made baguette will have even pores. So I think when we started off, we were talking about what makes us human. I think it's a good time for us to understand that these are the things that are going to make us human. So there's no point in us letting go of that. A machine-led AI market, like Anil was saying, it will have its role within advertising, but there are some things which we can have confidence comes from something which is intuitively human. And since Anil kind of spoke about the carbon footprint part of things a little earlier in his thing, I think we're going to end this session with a video that's created exactly to solve for that problem, amongst other things. Can we please play Address the Future, please? Nitin, can we play Address the Future, please? Okay. In case we're having, I think we'll take a, yeah, we're on.
Our generation lives in a paradox. On one hand, we love to express our style and creativity online. On the other, we want to reduce all the production waste that has a negative impact on the environment. A paradox caused by the unwritten rule that we can't be seen online in the same outfit twice. So how do we secure a better future while maintaining our creative output online? With a digital clothing collection, a series of virtually fitted fashion items that you only wear in digital space. This is how it works. First, you take a picture. You choose a product from the web shop before a 3D tailor adjusts the product to your image. Now, your outfit is ready to be shared on social media. This is a new way of expressing our fashion creativity without leaving its footprint on the world. The solution did not only challenge today's e-commerce conventions and brand experiences, it challenged an entire industry's ideas and innovations towards more sustainable solutions. And once the webshop was open, the newest fashion phenomena traveled across the globe.
Dels er der jo det miljømæssige aspekt i, at I faktisk ikke producerer tøj.
Hashtag Address the Future. They are one of the few brands brands that have a creative approach to this problem.
There we go. Digital clothing collection that that you can use simply for your Instagram pictures, and you don't actually have to wear them and actually cause no harm to the environment whatsoever in the process. So we're bang at 5 o'clock. Thank you for being around with us for the last 1 hour. To quote, I think, Anbu sir from the beginning, we hope chat on artificial intelligence kind of boosted natural intelligence in some way. Anbu sir, over to you. And thank you so much, Anil, for listening. Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Aditya. And I just want to say something to everybody. You know, both of us are not real. Anbu is the only real person. This is an artificially, AI created imagery of both Aditya and me. But jokes apart,
that's why we were lagging, in case we were lagging.
But jokes apart, Anbu, I hope, we did just thank you, Anbu. Thank you at Club Madras for this. I think it's a fantastic platform. I really love the work that you all are doing. And thank you. Anbu, over to you. Anbu, we can't hear you.
Can't hear you.
Yeah. So thank you, Anil, and thank you, Aditya, for taking some time and sharing your wonderful thoughts and insights. It was a learning experience. That reminds me of a quote by Leo Burnett, where he says, "Curiosity about life in all its aspect is what, is the secret of great creative people." And I think that little bit of curiosity is what might give us that slight edge over machines in this world. Artificial intelligence, of course, will coexist with human creativity. I don't think personally that you can take it completely off. Thank you for a lovely session once again, and thank you people for logging in from wherever you are. I'd like to thank my executive committee members for putting this together. I'd like to thank Hindu, the print media partner, medianewsforyou.com, which is our online media partner, and WAF Digital for providing us the tech support. Thank you once again, and look forward to seeing you in one of the other sessions of the E-Gyan series. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Aditya.
Thank you, Anand. Bye-bye.